Valeria and the Vampire. It was a cold, dark night in New York. Valeria was returning home late after a tiring day at university. The full moon illuminated the deserted streets, and an eerie silence seemed to envelop the city. There was something in the air, a feeling of impending danger, but Valeria chose to ignore it. She was walking down a shortcut alley she usually used to get to her apartment faster when she felt someone following her. She quickened her pace, but the footsteps behind her did as well. When she turned to look, she saw no one, only shadows lengthening under the dim light of a street lamp. The feeling of being watched did not go away, however. The air grew chilly, and Valeria heard a soft whisper, "You shouldn't walk alone at night, Valeria." Before she could react, a figure emerged from the shadows in front of her. It was a tall, thin man, dressed in a long black coat, with a pale face and dark eyes that shone with a reddish glow. His smile revealed sharp fangs that reflected the moonlight. "Don't be afraid, darling," he said in a deep, seductive voice. "I haven't come to hurt you, at least not yet." Valeria felt a chill run through her body. She knew what this man was, or rather, what he was not. He was a vampire, a creature of the night who seemed to have set his sights on her for some unknown reason. Without a second thought, Valeria pulled the medallion of time out of her pocket, hoping that it could somehow protect her. The jewel glowed with a blue light, and the mystical symbols began to slowly spin. The vampire looked at the medallion with interest. "So it's true what they say. You have the medallion of time. It's not common for someone like you, so young and unprepared, to possess such a powerful artifact." Valeria stepped back, holding the medallion high, as if it could scare him away. "What do you want from me?" "It's simple," the vampire replied, approaching with a haunting grace. "I have lived in this city for centuries. I have seen it change and evolve, and I have also met many like you, bearers of ancient objects with extraordinary abilities. The medallion can do more than transport through time, can it not? It can also open doors I have been seeking for centuries." Valeria didn't know what he meant by doors, but the threat in his words was clear. The vampire wanted her for more than just her blood. He wanted the power the medallion could unleash. Without further thought, Valeria activated the medallion, quietly reciting the words of a spell she had learned on one of her trips into the past. The blue light intensified, creating a glowing circle around her. The vampire paused, his eyes narrowing. "Interesting. You think you can stop me with ancient magic?" He smiled, baring his fangs. "You have underestimated the power of the creatures of the night." In the blink of an eye, the vampire stepped through the circle of light and appeared behind Valeria, holding her tightly. She felt the cold of his hands on her skin and his icy breath on her neck. But just as he was about to bite her, Valeria turned the light of the medallion towards him. The jewel emitted such an intense flash that the vampire screamed, letting go of it and stepping back as his skin began to burn under the mystical light. "You can't beat me," the vampire exclaimed furiously, but his voice now held a mixture of pain and surprise. Valeria seized the moment and used the power of the medallion to open a time portal. Not knowing exactly where it would take her, she stepped inside, leaving the vampire struggling to regenerate behind. She emerged in another part of the city, but something wasn't right. This wasn't the modern New York she knew. The streets were darker, and the buildings, old and Gothic, seemed to stare at her from the shadows. It was as if she had traveled to an alternate version of the city, a New York shrouded in shadow and ruled by creatures of the night. The vampire appeared again, this time with a satisfied expression. "Did you think you could escape so easily? I have lived more lives than you could ever imagine. This place," he spread his arms out, "is my domain, where vampires rule and humans are mere memories." Valeria realized that she had made a mistake by opening the portal without knowing her destiny. She had been taken to a dimension where the vampire had absolute control. Now, she would have to use all her knowledge of the medallion and the ancient rituals to get out of there and close that door forever. As the vampire slowly advanced towards her, Valeria felt that the true confrontation was just beginning, one in which she was not only fighting for her life, but also for the fate of all the dimensions that the medallion could connect.